what's up everyone, and welcome back to the Stocks with Mike and Tom show. We have a great video today. We have a lot of great plays to go over, and we have some huge earnings to talk about. So we're coming off of a crazy trading day on Friday. There was a ton of volatility to the upside and the downside. So we're definitely set for an interesting open on Tuesday. But with that being said, Tom, let's get right into it.
Yeah, like you said, the market went all over the place on Friday. We can see the SPY kind of double bottomed here around 460 and then actually held up pretty strong, especially at the end of the day. We ended up breaking above that high there at 465. So it ended up making for a pretty good close. And I feel like a lot of traders are probably pretty optimistic heading into tomorrow with how good that close was. But I will say there was a lot of crazy inflation data that came out last week, and tons of crazy stuff that happened that caused a lot of movement. But Mike, this week, we're going to have a ton of big earnings. Last week, we had some banks report earnings, and it might have impacted the market. We saw JP Morgan end up falling on their earnings and a few other banks. And this week, we have Goldman Sachs on Tuesday, along with Charles Schwab before open. Then Wednesday, we have big ones. We have Bank of America and Morgan Stanley. So we have more banks reporting this week. And I think it's going to be a pretty big impact on the market. If we go back and we look at JP Morgan last week, Mike, they reported decent EPS numbers and everything, but their outlook for the next year was kind of downgraded. Their CFO made some pretty crazy statements and they ended up tanking. And then it ended up bleeding over into the other banks like Bank of America too. So it's definitely going to be a very interesting week for the banks and for the overall market with these earnings coming up.
No doubt, but Tom, we also have a lot of other earnings coming up too. So let's take a look at that chart one more time. Look at all these. We have, I know you already covered a lot of the bank ones. We have Procter and Gamble, United Airlines, Discover, Netflix, American Airlines. There's a lot of big ones coming up this week. And to me, I would say the biggest one would be Netflix on Thursday after close. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, definitely. And let's go check out Netflix and see how it's kind of moving last week. And we can see they actually got a huge pump to the upside towards the end of the day on Friday. I remember a couple of guys in the Discord were pointing this one out. Maybe Netflix will get a pretty good move. I know that, they had some pretty big shows come out lately, like Squid Game and stuff. So hopefully, this bleeds over into Netflix's earnings and they start to see some pretty good numbers come out. I think that would be pretty good for them. And they've also been selling off quite a bit, Mike. Honestly, they fell from $700 almost down to $500 at this point. This is a pretty big dip.
True. And then looking back at that intraday data on Friday, that giant green candle was actually off of news that Netflix is raising their prices for the US and Canada. So their basic plan in the US, that price is rising up $1. And then that is going to a total of $9.99. The standard plan went from $13.99 to $15.49. And the premium plan rose from $17.99 up to $19.99. So they're raising their prices, and the market definitely liked it, especially for those first couple minutes.
Yeah, that's really good to see. Lots of people have been raising prices lately with inflation and everything. So I'm kind of glad to see that Netflix is moving up with that news. Sometimes in the past, Mike, I've seen stuff where people have kind of, quit using Netflix whenever they would raise prices. But at this point, it's kind of warranted. And I'm glad it's helping the stock. Hopefully they end up, getting some good revenue numbers off of this. And honestly, I feel like the whole streaming service as a sector might do a little bit better. Omicron's been picking up a little bit lately, and hopefully, we start to see Disney start to turn around too. I know they had a pretty crazy move on Friday and they ended up recovering actually quite a bit.
I'm waiting for some huge news with Disney with their potential sports betting deal with DraftKings or Caesars. And then, when we see Netflix raising prices, I'm curious if Disney Plus is considering raising their prices.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. And they might, that might be some pretty good news for them. And I know Disney Plus is pretty cheap right now. So they might be a pretty good idea if they ended up doing that, especially if they come out with some good new shows, like maybe something with Star Wars, or I know they have that new Buzz Lightyear movie coming up over the next year or so. So we'll have to see how they end up doing. But I feel like they'll do pretty good, Mike. And obviously, I'm kind of waiting for next summer because I feel like as the summer starts to roll around, they might start to get more revenue from their parks, kind of like what we saw during this year. Those parks actually picked up a lot as far as people going there.
Yeah, good point. All right, Tom. Well, do we have any other major news before we get into the momentum plays?
Nothing too crazy. I do have the economic calendar from Trading Economics here up, and we can see that this week there's not too much going on. We do have some initial jobless claims on Thursday to look out for before the market opens. So that's going to be interesting. But the main stuff is going to be next week. We're going to have a pretty good time. They have the Fed's interest rate decision on Wednesday, as well as Powell's going to be speaking at the FOMC press conference. So that's going to be really cool for next week. But this week, there's not too much going on as far as economic data and stuff like that coming out. But I will say, though, it's going to be very interesting with these earnings. And honestly, I'm really going to watch these banks because I feel like the banks are going to, make a big factor in the market, especially with how yields and everything have been going.
There we go. So let's get right into the momentum plays for tomorrow. And with the first one, we have the powerhouse Boeing to the upside.
Yeah, Boeing's been on fire. This is actually a pretty nice double top up here. Go ahead and make them break out above 20 or $228. That'll be an awesome break of resistance.
How about this Boeing movement lately, Tom? Like, it's been exploding like almost every day for the past week or two. It's been looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been holding up above resistances. It's been really good for them. I know they had some good news coming out of China, where China actually is going to allow their 737s to get back into service. So that's great news for them. I know they had some, some bad news for a couple of years with those 737s. So it's good to see those getting going. And, it's really heating up the stock, especially on that daily chart.
True that. All right, with the next momentum play, we have Corsair to the upside.
Yeah, another nice one to the upside. Go ahead and make them break out above $20.80.
Sounds great. And then with the last one, we have UPS, but to the downside.
Yeah, this one's kind of unfortunate, but go ahead and make UPS break below 205 even.
All right, so we are watching UPS for a potential day trade to the downside tomorrow, only if it breaks below the level Tom listed. And then we are watching Boeing and Corsair for potential day trades to the upside tomorrow, only if they break above the levels Tom listed. But with that being said, let's shout out our Discord member of the day, which is Fearless Bull. Huge shout out, Fearless Bull. Thanks for being a great member of the chat, and thanks for all of your activity. We really appreciate it. But Tom, it's now time for the comments from the previous video. We have Chris asking about Adobe. So he said, I just bought a couple Adobe calls today. Did I screw up? Thoughts on Adobe, please. So it's for the January 28th expiration. So he doesn't have too much time. I mean, it's just like a mediocre setup in my opinion, especially with that short-term expiration. Like maybe if they had like a month or two, then it could be decent. But those options expire in like 2 weeks. So to me, it's not a great setup.
Yeah, me either. I really like Adobe though for the longer term. I feel like it's almost better to maybe short some puts down here or maybe get some shares. I think that'll be the better way. But I do like Adobe for the long term. It's just like you said, with that short-term expiration, it's going to be pretty hard to profit on those. And we're going to need Adobe to have a pretty big turnaround here and maybe come back up above this 552 resistance. Maybe if we pop back up above that, I could see it.
Sounds good. And with the next question, we have Steven saying, hey guys, what do you think of Chargepoint for the short term? So Chargepoint has definitely been struggling a good amount over the past couple of months. I feel like if you want exposure to this company, now's probably the time to start to average into it. Is it my favorite setup in the world? No. At this price point, it's decent though. So it's definitely a risky play. If I were to play it, it would be through short put options, so cash secured puts. But besides that, it's at a decent level.
Yeah, I think it's pretty decent. I shorted a put on it a while ago and got assigned some shares, and I'm just going to hold them for the long term now. But yeah, I played Chargepoint a while ago, Mike. I like it for the longer term too, but it's a growth stock. It's probably going to, maybe go a little bit lower here in the shorter term. But, honestly, we're kind of waiting for just a turnaround for the overall growth sector. Like lately, we've been seeing Chargepoint go down, Plug go down, Blink go down. So we're kind of just waiting for like an overall sector reversal here.
No doubt. And then we have Outlaw saying, hey guys, what's a good buy point for Ford for the short term? So this one's tough, Tom. Like Ford has been on a tremendous upside. I guess you could say a tremendous bull run. We'll say that. But here's the thing, like the next closest major support is right around $22.50. But I just don't know if we're ever going to retest that again. Like with the way it's been moving, like it's just been exploding to the upside. So I would say ideally right around $22 to $22.50 in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as a pretty good support here in the shorter term too. If we end up falling below like 23.50, I don't know how low we'll end up going, Mike. Like I would think maybe we could maybe come down and retest $20, but we'll have to see. It's been on fire, and like you said, we might not ever get there again. Like I've been seeing some analysts go crazy about Ford, and it's good to see. Ford was honestly, they were beaten down for a long time. Like if we look at the max weekly chart, ever since like the early 2000s, they've just been getting beaten down. So I'm glad to see them recovering. And it's just almost a really good thing that they innovated and they got into these EVs when they did. I think it really helped their stock, obviously, and it really helped the investor sentiment. People are talking about Ford in a pretty big way now.
No doubt. And the stock's been doing so great, I mean, over the past couple of years, it has just been exploding. So that's awesome to see. So hopefully we do see a short-term dip. So that would give a pretty decent buying opportunity. But with that being said, Tom, do you have any last-minute plays or anything you're watching for this week?
I'm still keeping my eyes on the metal sector. I will say GLD is looking pretty decent. I was watching the futures. If we go look at like /ES futures, they're pretty much not doing anything. So the market's, at least right now, the SPY is going to open up tomorrow morning, probably right around where it closed on Friday, which is a good sign. Sometimes we see these futures go crazy, especially during these like longer weekends. But if we go look at /GC for gold, gold honestly is holding up pretty well. At least it's in the green a little bit. So it's going to be pretty much unchanged too. But I'm really going to keep my eyes on GLD and SLV for the next week. If GLD can start to really hold up above 170, I'll really like it.
There we go. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or want us to cover any specific stock, let us know in the comments down below. And if you trade options, definitely check out that first link in the description down below for daily option swing trades, day trades, and access to an awesome community. You can cancel at any time. But other than that, let's have a great trading week. And like I said, if you have any questions, let us know in the comments down below.